Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are today's headlines. Indian Army says it reserves the right to respond to the Uri attack at a place and time of its choosing. Prime Minister briefs President over developments. NIA team in Uri to collect evidence. India prepares to isolate Pakistan internationally. Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari says terrorism cannot be tolerated. Briefing media during return from NAM summit, says India's response will be on its own judgment. Karnataka to challenge Kaveri Supervisory Committee's order on release of water to Tamil Nadu in Supreme Court. Committee has asked for release of 3,000 cusecs of water per day. At least 50 people feared killed in a bus mishap in Madhubani in Bihar. NDRF and SDRF teams engaged in search operations. Chief Minister and Prime Minister expressed grief over loss of lives. Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari has said that the Non-Aligned Movement Summit has resolved to act for peace, sovereignty and solidarity for development in the world. He said this while addressing the media on board Air India aircraft while returning back to New Delhi after attending the 17th NAM Summit in Margarita in Venezuela.
Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari on Monday delivered a strong message on Sunday's attack in Uri, in which 18 Jawans were killed and over 20 other personnel were injured, stating that India will deliver the correct response to such provocations. He said the whole issue is that innocent civilians are being targeted.
If one is attacked, we shall respond in our own judgment, and the manner of response is something that is left to the concerned authorities of the state. But there is no question of restraint or tolerance. Nobody can tolerate terrorism.
Noting that the attack was a result of the use of cross-border terrorism by one particular country, the Vice President said the attack was totally condemnable.
This is totally unacceptable, totally condemnable, and this kind of tactics will eventually lead to a lot of unpleasantness. What action the Government of India will take, you will hear about it from the Government of India.
Elaborating on the 17th NAM summit, the Vice President explained the defining theme of the conference.
If you read the final document, you will see that the three longest sub-items in it are: one is terrorism, another is sustainable development goals, and the third is the situation in what the world calls Middle East, we call West Asia.
Earlier in the day, the Vice President met Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, Cuban President Raul Castro and Nepalese Vice President Nanda Kishore Pun. Meetings that he said went really well. Later, the Vice President was given a ceremonial send-off before his return to India. With camera person Saroj Kumar Das and Sudipto Das, this is Shyam Sundar and Shiva Kumar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the Indian Army has said that it reserves the right to respond to the Uri attack at a place and time of its choosing. On Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi briefed the President about developments related to the Uri attack after holding meetings with top cabinet ministers and top officials of the army and security agencies. India will now look to isolate Pakistan diplomatically and at the international fora following the attack that claimed the lives of 18 soldiers. An NIA team is in Uri to collect evidence from the attack spot. Here's more.
A day after the deadly terror strike in Uri, the top brass of the union government went into a huddle in the national capital on Monday. First, the Home Minister held a meeting in which National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Army Chief General Dalbir Singh and top officials of the Ministries of Home and Defence, paramilitary forces and chiefs of intelligence agencies briefed him on the latest situation in the Kashmir Valley, as well as along the line of control. Later, Home Minister Rajnath Singh, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and NSA Ajit Doval and Army Chief General Dalbir Singh met the Prime Minister at his residence.
I'm sure the concerned ministries, the Ministry of Home, the Ministry of Defence, would decide what is in the best interest of the nation.
नकारने या उसको इनकार करना कोई मायने नहीं रखता है, सब चीज सामने में आ चुका है, इसलिए पाकिस्तान क्या रिएक्शन करता है उस पर अभी ज़्यादा हम लोगों को ध्यान नहीं देना है। जो कदम उठाना है वो सोच समझ करके कदम उठाएंगे, उसको ज़्यादा बयानबाजी करके उसको बिल्कुल अलग तरह का मुद्दा नहीं बनाना है।
The army says its response will be at a time and place of its choosing.
We have the desired capability to respond to such blatant acts of aggression and violence in the manner as deemed appropriate by us. We reserve the right to respond to any act of the adversary at the time and place of our own choosing.
The Prime Minister also later met the President to brief him on the developments following the Uri attack and the high-level meeting he held with top ministers and top officials of the army and intelligence agencies. Meanwhile, the chorus for a strong reply to Pakistan gained momentum, with opposition parties blaming the NDA government's Pakistan policy for the situation. Even BJP ally Shiv Sena took a dig at the Modi government.
I think there is not even a minority of one in India who feels otherwise than that India should give a befitting reply to Pakistan, the details of which are for the government to decide.
कश्मीर का इशू सिर्फ कश्मीर का इशू नहीं है, देश का इशू है। कश्मीर पर जो हमला है वो देश पर हमला है। 17 जवानों की शहादत है ये। इसके लिए जिम्मेदार कौन है? उसका जवाब तो देना ही पड़ेगा जनता को।
The Defence Minister and the Army Chief had visited Uri after the attack and met the injured soldiers. A team of the National Investigation Agency is also in Uri to gather leads and other evidence from the terror attack spot. Heavily armed militants suspected to be from Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed had stormed an army camp in Uri in Kashmir on Sunday, killing 18 Jawans and injuring 20. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has sought help from the United States to resolve tensions between India and Pakistan. He raised the issue of alleged human rights violations and killings in Kashmir during his meeting with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in New York. Sharif reminded Kerry that former President Clinton had promised that the U.S. will play its role to help out in resolving bilateral disputes and issues between Pakistan and India. Sharif and Pakistan has always fought terrorism as a moral obligation, and he has always reached out to neighboring countries for regional peace, stability and prosperity. Sharif is in the US to attend the 71st session of the United Nations General Assembly. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Army Chief General Raheel Sharif presided over a Corps Commanders conference in Rawalpindi. The meeting held an in-depth review of external and internal security situation and the operational preparedness of the Pakistan's army. According to the statement by the Pak Army, its chief took note of the hostile narrative being propagated by India following the Uri attack. The Pak Army chief has said that Pakistan's armed forces have surmounted every challenge in the past and were fully capable of thwarting any sinister design against the integrity and sovereignty of Pakistan in the future. Amid reports that India was considering granting political asylum to Baloch activists living in exile, exiled Balochistan Republican Party leader Brahmagda Bukti will formally apply for political asylum to India. Now, a decision to this effect was taken at a high-level meeting of the Balochistan Republican Party in Geneva on Sunday. The Balochistan Republican Party will seek assistance from India, Afghanistan and Bangladesh to approach the International Criminal Court against Pakistani army generals and China. Currently living in exile in Switzerland, Bukti is the grandson of Baloch nationalist leader Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti, who was killed by Pakistan forces in 2006. Meanwhile, India raised the issue of human rights abuses in Balochistan by Pakistani government for the first time last week at the United Nations after Prime Minister Narendra Modi raised the issue during his Independence Day speech last month.
Definitely within few days, as I said in my statement, कि हम इस पर आज ही से काम करेंगे. So definitely we will discuss it and we will go to the Indian embassy to formally ask for asylum. दूसरी बात मैंने कही इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस, वहाँ पर हम चाइना को ले जाएंगे. वहाँ पर इंडिविजुअली करना मुश्किल है, इसीलिए हमने ये फैसला किया कि हम इस बारे में बांग्लादेश, हिंदुस्तान और अफगानिस्तान की मदद से इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस में चाइना को ले जाएंगे.
India has stepped up its attack on Pakistan at the international forum over the issue of terrorism. In a blunt message, India asked Pakistan to stop supporting terrorism and vacate illegal occupation of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir at the 33rd session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. In its right to reply at the session, India said Pakistan continues to test the patience as well as wisdom of the Council with its unceasing false narrative backed by fabricated facts and figures about Jammu and Kashmir. India also said that it firmly believes that a policy of zero tolerance against terrorism is as much an international obligation as it is a commitment to its own people. New Delhi has said, and I quote, "We once again ask Pakistan to stop inciting and supporting violence and terrorism in any part of India and refrain from meddling in our internal affairs in any manner. We call upon the Council to urge Pakistan to fulfill its obligation to vacate illegal occupation of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir," unquote. And in an apparent fallout of the Uri terror attack, Russia has called off its joint military exercise with Pakistan. Russia's move is a big diplomatic gain for India, as the latter had earlier urged Russia to reconsider its decision to hold the joint military drills in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Pakistan and Russia were scheduled to conduct the Druzhba 2016 tactical exercises from September 24th to October 7th. The External Affairs Ministry had sent a letter to Kremlin soon after Islamabad confirmed the exercise. In its letter, India had asked Moscow to keep New Delhi's sensitivity in mind while conducting the joint military drills with Pakistan. In the high-level meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier on Monday, the government is believed to have decided to diplomatically isolate Pakistan at every international grouping. The 18 martyrs of the Uri attack were laid to rest on Monday. Here's our tribute to the martyrs. Well, 18 families left in distress there, and our hearts go out to them, and our prayers will always be with those families. Moving on now, here's a look at what's slated to make news during the course of the day in our segment The Day Ahead. Kickstarting the process of holding assembly polls in Manipur early next year, the full bench of the Election Commission led by Chief Election Commissioner Naseem Zaidi will visit Imphal to review the poll preparedness and meet state police and administration officials. They will also interact with representatives of political parties before coming back to Delhi on September 21st evening. The new generation medium-range surface-to-air missile jointly designed by Indian and Israeli experts will be test-fired from the integrated test range at Chandipur in Balasore off the Odisha coast. Earlier, 3 such tests have been successfully completed and a few more would finally give it a go to be inducted into the Indian Air Force. The Supreme Court will hear the case of Italian Marines who are accused of murdering 2 Indian fishermen in 2012. The 2 Marines were on duty as security guards on board the Italian-flagged commercial oil tanker MV Enrica Lexi and were arrested by the Indian authorities in February 2012 after they shot dead the fishermen off the coast of Kerala. Both the Marines are presently in Italy on medical grounds. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Life after death was a cardinal belief in the Harappan civilization. Reflecting this is the skeleton of a middle-aged woman with gold bangles. Excavated from Rakhigadi in Haryana, it's an example of the burial practices in those times. Much like the Egyptian mummies, vessels, eatables, ornaments were kept near the dead body, in the hope that they would be of use to the person in the next world.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the Kaveri Supervisory Committee on Monday directed the Karnataka government to release 3,000 cusecs of water to Tamil Nadu for 10 days. Terming the order as disappointing and a blow, Karnataka Home Minister on Monday said that the state would challenge the decision in the Supreme Court today. The interim order led to protests in various parts of Karnataka.
The Kaveri Supervisory Committee on Monday directed the Karnataka government to release 3,000 cusecs of water to Tamil Nadu for 10 days. The committee, chaired by Union Water Resources Secretary Shashi Shekhar, said that Karnataka will release the water from 21st of September to 30th of September. The meeting was attended by Chief Secretaries of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and senior officials of Kerala. The order comes a day ahead of a Supreme Court hearing on the dispute.
Chief Secretary has vehemently opposed for release of any water taking into account the ground realities and the drinking water problems that they would face in case of any additional release is ordered.
Union Water Resources Secretary said that the committee, however, has also decided to meet once every month starting February 2017, till the Kaveri Management Board is formed. Another decision taken by the panel was to ensure transparency in data on water reservoir and building an online system.
Install such real-time data in the next 1 to 2 years' time, for which CWC, Central Water Commission, will prepare a detailed proposal, detailed protocol, the kind of instrumentation that is required, the methodology of collection, how it will seamlessly travel to all the states as well as the Supervisory Committee Secretariat.
Terming the Kaveri Supervisory Committee order as a disappointing and a blow, Karnataka Home Minister has said that the state would challenge the decision in the Supreme Court. Earlier on 12th of September, the Supreme Court had directed Karnataka to release 12,000 cusecs of water up to 20th of September. The interim order led to protests in various parts of Karnataka, leaving 2 people dead and several injured. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, at least 50 people are feared dead in a bus tragedy in Madhubani in Bihar. The accident took place when a bus fell into a roadside pond on Monday afternoon. The spot of the accident is 40 kilometers from the district headquarters. 32 bodies have been recovered so far. Search is on for locating the rest of the bodies. The National Disaster Response Force or the NDRF and the State Disaster Response Force have been pressed into service. Now, the ill-fated bus was going from Madhubani to Sitamarhi. The accident occurred after the driver lost control of the vehicle. Expressing grief over the incident, Chief Minister instructed 2 of his cabinet colleagues to rush to the site and oversee rescue operations. The state government has announced 4 lakh rupees ex gratia to the next of kin of the deceased. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also expressed grief over the incident. In a tweet, he said that his thoughts are with the bereaved families in this hour of grief.
जांच होना चाहिए कि बस वाला कौन है, ये घटिया बस किस तरह से लूंज पूंज बस चलवाया और डीटीओ कैसे इसको परमिशन दिया, क्या उसमें खराबी थी या कैसे हुआ, मिसहैंडलिंग किया कैसे, पहले इन लोगों के ऊपर भी जांच साथ साथ होना चाहिए। हम मांग करते हैं सरकार से।
Meanwhile, the war in Uttar Pradesh's first family seems to be far from over. The rift deepened on Monday when Samajwadi Party's state unit head Shivpal Yadav expelled 7 party functionaries, including 3 MLCs, Sunil Singh Sajan, Anand Bhaduria and Sanjay Lathar, considered close to Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav. The pro-Akhilesh camp protested against this development, which came only 2 days after a compromise worked out by SP Chief Mulayam Singh Yadav, Shivpal Yadav and the Chief Minister. A number of youth office bearers of the party's front wings resigned, claiming that Akhilesh is their undisputed leader. Later on, Shivpal visited the Chief Minister's residence and both the leaders had closed-door talks. Today, a meeting of legislators and party district presidents has been called by Shivpal Yadav to discuss the party's strategy for the assembly elections due early next year.
जो भी अनुशासनहीनता करेगा और जो भी गलत काम करेगा, अवैध काम करेगा, उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होगी और किसी भी कीमत पर अनुशासनहीनता बर्दाश्त नहीं की जाएगी और जो भी पार्टी विरोधी गतिविधियों में शामिल होगा उसके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होगी.
Meanwhile, in the national capital, dengue and chikungunya cases are on the rise. The death toll due to dengue has increased to 19 and the number of cases of the disease has crossed 1,300. According to a municipal report released on Monday, around 2,625 cases of chikungunya have been recorded in the national capital to September 17th, marking a massive rise of nearly 150% from the previous count. At least 15 fatalities due to chikungunya have been reported at various hospitals in the city. SDMC and Delhi government have not acknowledged these deaths yet. According to the report, 714 cases are from other states. The chikungunya outbreak in the national capital is the worst in the last 6 years. Today, there is a hearing in the Delhi High Court on the plea seeking suggestions on the action taken to combat dengue and chikungunya by the government in the national capital. The High Court, in its last hearing on September 14th, asked the Aam Aadmi Party government to inform it about the steps they have taken to control these vector-borne diseases. And the world leaders on Monday approved a declaration that aims to provide a more coordinated and humane response to the refugee crisis around the globe. The issue of what to do about the 65 million displaced people worldwide took center stage at the UN General Assembly, with leaders from the 193 member states taking part in the first ever summit on addressing large movements of refugees and migrants. Minister of State for External Affairs MJ Akbar represented India at the meet.
Up to 4,000 migrants being evacuated from the Moria camp on the Greek island of Lesbos after a large fire destroyed their tent homes. Turkish Coast Guard intercepting 61 migrants trying to sail to Lesbos from the Turkish town of Ayvasik. Horror stories on plight of migrants around the world are being reported on a daily basis as the world faces a migrant crisis, with the staggering 65 million people displaced from their homes across the planet. On Monday, world leaders came together at the United Nations to adopt the New York Declaration, which expresses their political will to protect the right of refugees and migrants to save lives and share responsibility for large movements on a global scale.
The New York Declaration marks a political commitment of unprecedented force and resonance. It fills what has been a perennial gap in the international protection system, that of truly sharing responsibility for refugees in the spirit of the United Nations Charter.
The declaration contains bold commitments both to address current issues and to prepare the world for future challenges. It takes a pledge to protect the human rights of all refugees and migrants, ensure that all refugee and migrant children are receiving education within a few months of arrival, prevent and respond to sexual violence, support those countries who are rescuing and hosting refugees and migrants, stop detaining children to determine their migration status, find new homes for all refugees, and bringing International Organization for Migration into the UN system.
My colleagues, the world knows what it must do to respond effectively to the massive challenge that we face. But we have to apply the knowledge systematically, and we need the resources to be able to do so before it is too late.
The migrant crisis has been growing for several years, and with 21.3 million refugees across the globe, the need for action has never been greater. The promises may prove to be an uphill struggle at a time when refugees and migrants have become a divisive issue in Europe and the United States. And in the face of lack of consensus, there is a real danger that the declaration, an outcome document which contains no concrete commitments and is not legally binding, may fall short of what is needed. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Here's a roundup of the other international news in World Wrap. A convoy of 8 trucks has been hit by an airstrike near the Syrian city of Aleppo. 12 people were killed in the attack near the town of al-Kubra. A UN spokesman said at least 18 of the 31 trucks had been hit. The developments came just hours after the military declared the current cessation of violence was over. UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, said it was an outrage. A man suspected of planting bombs in New York and New Jersey is in custody after a shootout with police. Afghan-born Ahmad Khan Rahami is undergoing surgery for a gunshot wound after the confrontation in New Jersey. The suspect was found sleeping in a doorway in New Jersey, and when a police officer went to investigate and wake him, the suspect fired on him. 2 police officers suffered injuries before his arrest. The bombing in the Chelsea district on Saturday night injured 29 people. North Korea has said that it carried out a successful ground test of a new rocket engine to launch satellites. Kim Jong-un, the country's leader, asked scientists and engineers to make preparations for a satellite launch as soon as possible. It is the latest in a series of missile-related tests this year. Meanwhile, the US and China have agreed to step up cooperation at the UN to address the North's 5th nuclear test. The test conducted earlier this month is thought to be the country's most powerful yet. 2 suspected Boko Haram attacks in northeast Nigeria have left up to 14 people dead and 3 soldiers wounded. 6 people were killed in an ambush of a commercial convoy escorted by the military in the Sanda district of Borno State. In the second attack, 8 people were killed outside a church in Borno State. Well, that's it on this edition of The Breakfast News. Have a good day.